Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in to HotRoutes. My name is Jordan Artzy, and I'm the editor-in-chief here at SportsRoots.com, and I will be your host and moderator of the podcast. I'm going to introduce you to my panel members. Today we have Christian Douglas, NFL analyst and NFL writer.
So,
we have Pablo Rosero, the lead writer here at SportsRoots.
hello.
So what HotRoutes is where two writers or special guests will join in on the hot seat and debate many topics about sports. The contestants have not seen these questions and will be expected to answer these questions on their feet. First, I will ask the question, then the person will present their case. The next person will present their case, and then they may rebut. During the rebuttal, they may interrupt each other. It was decided that Pablo will go first, and a winner will be decided by the audience, but I will declare the immediate winner. Today's episodes and topics will be towards the 2017 NFL Draft, but other topics can be discussed. Some rules: keep the discussion civil. Make sure you guys don't insult each other directly. You may insult each other. You may insult each other's arguments, though. Also, no direct cursing. Quick reminder: make sure to follow us on Twitter at SportsRoots1. Our Instagram is SportsRoots, and read our articles to get latest in-depth analysis at SportsRoots.com. All the links will be in the description. So let's get started. It has been agreed upon by a majority of fans and reporters that Myles Garrett is likely the first pick in the draft. If Garrett somehow vanished from the draft, who are the Cleveland Browns taking?
Well, Cleveland obviously needs a lot. Obviously, quarterback is in question, even though they acquired Brock Osweiler from the Houston Texans. This draft features is a very deep defensive class. You could see a Solomon Thomas going first overall. You could see a Malik Hooker, Marshawn Lattimore, and probably just what's been discussed in recent days, where Mitch Trubisky could go number one, even with a Myles Garrett in the draft. So we could see Cleveland going in that direction, but it would be foolish to pass on one of these defensive studs. The first name I threw out there was Solomon Thomas, who's clearly the second best player in this draft. He compares favorably to Aaron Donald of the Los Angeles Rams, who has been a Pro Bowler since he came into the league, even though he was undersized and that they had questions about that. Proved everyone wrong, and he's ranked in the top 3 for defensive tackles on Pro Football Focus.
I'm sorry we have to disagree. I think the second best, obviously, if you took out Myles Garrett, the best defensive prospect would be Reuben Foster. But obviously, if it's an option, you trade down. But if it's not, hypotheticals here, I think with the second pick, they pick Reuben Foster because honestly, I don't think he'd be available for their second pick in the first round, and he's a must-grab defensive player in this draft.
Your rebuttal, Pablo?
Reuben Foster offers a very unique skill set. I will agree. He's a hard-hitting middle linebacker from Alabama. Alabama has shown to send talented defensive players. Obviously, most recently, C.J. Mosley. He's the stud middle linebacker in Baltimore. But Cleveland does not need a middle linebacker. Their middle linebacker of the future is Christian Kirksey. Talented young player. They need to shore up that defensive line. They do not have a defensive end. Solomon Thomas can play defensive end. They can move him inside with Danny Shelton, a former first-rounder. And it's just, they need talent. He's talented, game changer. I've said this multiple times in our other podcasts, NFL Draft Preview. Teams need game changers on defense because it is a pass-first league now. You need to be able to get to the quarterback. When you're playing in a division with a Big Ben, you need someone who's strong enough to bring him down, and that is Solomon Thomas.
You have good points, but honestly, in this league, I don't think Reuben Foster would. Whoever picks him up in the draft is going to move him to not a middle linebacker. They're going to move him to the outside because
I disagree. Reuben Foster is built to play middle linebacker.
He's built to splat anyone that comes near.
I don't think he's quick enough. I do not think he's quick enough to be playing outside linebacker and covering tight ends.
Neither are a lot of outside linebackers. Depends what defense you run. If you want a 3-4, which the Browns do run.
His future is at middle linebacker, and I do not believe that he should be moved from middle linebacker.
if he moves from middle linebacker, what happens? You have a middle linebacker with the hitting ability of Reuben Foster would be great.
You'd rather him come in from the inside than staying outside.
There's no other linebacker in this draft that can produce more than Reuben Foster in the NFL. There's 10 people that can.
I would say Hanson Reddick could produce as much as Reuben Foster. But here's what I will tell you: it's a systematic league, and it all depends on the system. Like you said, I think Reuben Foster's main position would be middle linebacker. That's what he played at Alabama, and what you play at Bama is usually what you play in the league.
Well, if they run a 3-4, then they have 2 middle linebackers. If not, they move them. I mean, I think in this draft, there's just a bevy of defensive ends. You can name Derek Barnett, Solomon Thomas, Taco Charlton. There's a lot. There's Jonathan Allen. There's just so many you can choose to the point where I don't think you need.
But I don't think you should pass on potential like Solomon Thomas.
There's no better potential in this draft other than Myles Garrett than Reuben Foster. I mean, you see him hit. He's the only player I've seen that. If you say he's hard hitting, is an understatement.
But what if you get a player, let's say an Adrian Peterson, even a Leonard Fournette, who is in this draft, who could go number 2 overall here to San Francisco, the highest. Someone like that who can lower his shoulder and break that hit. A hard hit doesn't always mean that they'll go down. You need a player who's all-around talented, who can play in multiple spots and produce right away from day one. I'm not arguing with you that Reuben Foster can't do it. He's an immense talent. Obviously a Nick Saban player. Nick Saban players produce. If they're defensive players, offensive Alabama players are questionable, except if they're wide receivers, obviously. But I think Reuben Foster and the middle linebacker position, I don't remember the last time we've seen a linebacker going number 1. I don't think you remember that either. Jadeveon Clowney did not go in as a linebacker. He came in as a defensive end. So we just have to wait and see.
I mean, there's a first for everything. I honestly, when you see him play, like you said, he came from Alabama. And in the locker room, he was reported to be the leader. In the locker room, he commanded leadership from every single one of his players. He adds that to his game. I mean, I don't know about Solomon Thomas in how he led the team, but I don't think he led it like he did Reuben Foster.
He was the team captain.
All right, guys, we're going to have to move on to the second question, but that was a really good discussion. So this second question is for you, Christian. O.J. Howard is a monster. I think we can all agree about that. But will he be a top 5 pick? Or will he slide down to the mid-first round or maybe later? What's your opinion on that? Where do you think he goes?
I think it all depends on, you said top 10?
I think top 5.
Top 5? I think it all depends on what Jacksonville wants to do. Because I don't think San Francisco has too many holes in the roster to do it. Cleveland Browns, obviously. I mean, Myles Garrett, they're not picking him. Chicago, no. I think it's what Jacksonville wants to do. I think the 2 projected picks for them is either Leonard Fournette, O.J. Howard, or maybe another defensive. But I think those 2 is what they're leaning on. So, I mean, it depends on what they want to do. I don't think Tennessee's taking them. And I think it's up to Jacksonville. I think if Jacksonville doesn't pick him, then I don't think he lands top 5.
Would you like to present your case?
I mean, top 5 is a stretch. You have other talented tight ends such as David Njoku from the University of Miami. You have Evan Ingram from Ole Miss, very talented. Bucky Hodges from Virginia Tech, who's also very talented, could slide to the second round along with Evan Ingram. David Njoku, late first-round pick. The top 5, you have Myles Garrett, Solomon Thomas, Malik Hooker, Marshawn Lattimore, Jamal Adams, Leonard Fournette. Right there, that's 6 players who are better than O.J. Howard. Maybe you could debate that their ceilings aren't as high as his, but I could say that all 6 of them are better players, better prospects. O.J. Howard's a playmaking tight end who can block, huge in this league. We could see him being like a Gronkowski due to the size and the ability to block. And it all depends. I think if he were to go in the top 5, if a team falls in love with him, you have Tennessee at 5, which would be the optimal case because they have an assistant coach. Their offensive coordinator actually is a former New England Patriots, used to work on the New England Patriots staff, and we used to see Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, and even recently we saw Gronk and Martellus Bennett, so we could see that. But since Tennessee has the 18th overall pick also in this year's draft, they could just wait and look at an Njoku. They could just wait in the second round and look at an Ingram. And it's just top 5 is a stretch, maybe top 10. You have Buffalo there who could go with it after years of being beaten by the 2 tight end system. They can match O.J. Howard up with Charles Clay.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that there's a lot more talented players, offensive heavy league. This draft is clearly defensive heavy. You're going to see teams taking defense because it's a strong defensive draft. So top 5 is a bit of a stretch. I would say more realistically the highest you can go is top 10. Maybe 8 to Buffalo. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Buffalo has the 8th overall pick.
Yeah, I think they do.
I think it's
No, 8th is Carolina. They have the
10. You could see him at 10. And wherever he goes, he'll be a great player, obviously, because talented player, high ceiling, and he's proved that he could do it. Even his sophomore season at Alabama, national championship game.
Yes.
Before that, he wasn't known very well, and he had a huge game, helped Alabama win that national championship, 2015, over Clemson. Had a massive game and proved that he could do with the best. He stayed in school. He could have gone to the draft. He stayed. His stock went up, had a massive season for Alabama. Bucky Award winner, best tight end in the nation. And we just see him, just a big body, red zone target, obviously, for any team that gets him. Great blocker. Top 5 is just a stretch, though.
I forgot to answer the question in my first response. I think I'd like to say the smart pick is no, but I think they might because, and it's not to Tennessee. I think because their depth, they have. What do they have? I think they have Philip Supernaw, and then they have. I think
Tennessee Titans?
Yeah,
Delaney Walker.
and yeah, I'm other than him. I mean, you're talking about the 2 tight end set, right?
Yeah.
Just saying the second tight end.
Oh, okay.
They just lost Anthony Fasano to the Dolphins.
I mean, I think Supernaw is a great second tight end. He's like an Ed Dickerson for the Dixon or for the Panthers. I think 4. I think 4. I think he might go to 4 because all the hype that's surrounding him. I think he does land 4 to Jacksonville, and I mean, it's not the smartest pick. I don't think they do go with him, but maybe he might. He might dip to even what Pablo said in 10 to Buffalo, but I think Jacksonville is a good chance to take him.
So let's move on to the next question. Tons of people believe that Houston will take a quarterback in this draft. Hypothetically, if the top 5 quarterbacks are taken off the board, meaning they're taken before Houston comes up, who do you think Houston will take? Will they go quarterback or will they go a different position? Your take on that, Pablo?
After those 4 QBs fall off the board, after they're taken, obviously, I think the fifth best quarterback here would be Davis Webb from Cal or Nathan Peterman from Pitt, however teams do them, but I do not believe that they're first rounders. I think mostly after losing cornerback AJ Bouye to the Jacksonville Jaguars in free agency, I think you have to look at Garon Conley from Ohio State University, Marlon Humphreys from Alabama, players like that. You need to build up that defensive backs because their front 7 is insane. You're bringing back J.J. Watt off the back injury. You have Jadeveon Clowney there, who was an All-Pro this season. Wendy Marcellus had a very strong season. You have Brian Cushing. So when you play in a division that features wide receivers such as T.Y. Hilton, Allen Robinson, and Rashard Matthews, you need corners to defend, obviously.
Your take on that?
I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. Obviously, if those are off the board, and even if they were on the board, I don't think they take him. I think Bill O'Brien has confidence in their starting quarterback right now, Tom Savage, pre-draft. I think they do go cornerback by losing AJ Boye to Jacksonville Jaguars. Which one is an interesting question. I don't think Marshawn Lattimore lasts that long. I think maybe they go with a bigger, clean-feeded corner and maybe Tre'Davious White. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Or Marion Humphrey.
All right, so your rebuttal on that, Pablo.
Obviously, corners here. Like I said, we both agree on that. Here I think Garon Conley, if he's available, Marlon Humphreys. If they want to go bigger, which I think they should go quicker because of T.Y. Hilton being in that division, they could go Kevin King from Washington. Obviously, in this draft, a sleeper prospect who unfortunately will not be taken in the first round due to his injury at his pro day, Sidney Jones from Washington could fall. Whoever picks him up is going to have a great player in him once he's healthy, if he can recover. Obviously, he will probably never be 100% again, but 90% would be good. He's a tremendous talent. It was unfortunate to see him go down, but corner definitely has to be the move here. I don't think it's a good enough offensive lineman draft. Obviously, you have Forrest Lamp from Western Kentucky and Ryan Ramczyk from Wisconsin, but Forrest Lamp should be gone before the Texans pick, and I don't think Ryan Ramczyk should be taken by them. They already have two very talented tackles.
Yeah, just to add a quick little tidbit on that. I think they need somebody. I would think Adoree Jackson would be good, but he's more of a man coverage corner, and I don't believe that's what they need. I think they need an AJ Boye zone specialist at corner. So I don't think they take someone like Adoree Jackson.
Good take. I think we're going to move on to the next question because we're a little pressed for time now. Speaking of offensive linemen, this year's draft class is definitely on the lower end of the offensive line. Are there any names that in your mind that spark Pro Bowler, Christian?
I think I'll let Paulo take this one.
Okay, so offensive lineman, very weak position, very weak in this draft. You have Forrest Lamp, as I previously said, Forrest Lamp from Western Kentucky, Ramczyk from Wisconsin, Cam Robinson from Alabama. Extremely talented players. I think the one that stands out the most would be Forrest Lamp. Incredible pro day, incredible combine performance. I think Miami could take him, pair him up with Laramie Tunsil to form an incredible run and pass blocking duo on the left side of the field. Give Jay Ajayi and Ryan Tannehill space to operate in that offense. And I think those two, I think Cam Robinson could fall to a Seattle and who's in need of offensive linemen. Detroit could take Ryan Ramczyk also. These are obviously hypotheticals, but if they fall in that order, I think the best one to make a Pro Bowl would probably be Forrest Lamp, guard, Western Kentucky University.
I think obviously the top prospect I think in this draft is either Cam Robinson or Ramczyk. I think Ramczyk is probably the
Ryan Ramczyk.
I think him and Cam Robinson have the highest expectancy to be a Pro Bowler. I think also Lamp has a good chance to. I think my top prospect would have to go with Ryan Ramczyk.
What's your rebuttal on that?
Ryan Ramczyk is obviously an immense talent. There's no arguing that. He's a tackle from Wisconsin, previously stated. But I think Forrest Lamp, definitely the number one ranked offensive lineman in this year's class, in the sense that it's a rebuttal. Obviously, you have to wait and see how they play in the future in their rookie seasons. But it's also a situation of what team they fall to, what system, what scheme they go into, what's already in play in those offenses.
I'd have to agree with Pablo there. I don't find anything bad with his argument. I think everything he is spot on. I just think personally the best prospect in this draft is Ryan Ramczyk. Sorry for pronouncing that bad, but I think he's the best here.
All right, so let's move on to the fifth question. This draft year is special in the sense that there could be 5 running backs taken in the first round. Do you believe any of these backs are primed to make monster numbers, depending on what team they go to?
All right, so the 5 backs, as you're stating, would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Leonard Fournette, Louisiana State University, Dalvin Cook, Florida State University, Christian McCaffrey, Stanford, Joe Mixon, Oklahoma, and Alvin Kamari, Tennessee. Yes, those 5.
Yeah, those are the people I'm talking.
The one that stands out the most to me, the 2 actually, would be Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey. Leonard Fournette is a special back in the sense that he's a throwback running back. He's a mix of power with finesse. He'll run through you. He'll get you off. He'll get you off of him. He's very good after contact. And Christian McCaffrey is the pass catching back. He's what NFL teams want to get more of, as you saw with Atlanta, and even New England, both who played in the Super Bowl. Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman for the Falcons were relied on to make catches out of the backfield. And then the game-winning touchdown in Super Bowl 51 was made by James White, who was primarily a catching back, who replaced Dion Lewis, who was the original pass-catching back in the Patriots, who tore his ACL before the season and came back for the Super Bowl, had a fairly good performance compared to James White, who went off, set a record for most receiving yards by running back in the Super Bowl. So obviously we're seeing a league that's focusing on that. Both McCaffrey and Fournette could find themselves in the top 10, with Fournette falling to 4 to Jacksonville right now. That's projected by us at Sports Routes. And McCaffrey at 8 to the Panthers, which was spoken about on our draft preview on sportsroute.com. So, and the sense that Alvin Kamara could fall to the second round, and being an immense talent, Joe Mixon as well. And we see both of them. And the running backs in this class are extremely special. It just depends where they fall.
Right.
It's a situational league. You don't know who's falling where, schemes, what players are already there, who steps up in training camp, who gets injured. You have a bunch of undrafted guys who could step up also. And it's just who decides to perform at the right time.
Right. So I'm actually going to ask you a follow-up question to that. Do you think any of these running backs have Ezekiel Elliott numbers, or do you think it's basically on the Cowboys' offensive line? That was something that was pretty much historical in the sense of a rookie running back destroying the league.
I think with Ezekiel Elliott, it is a matchup with a great O-line, one of the best we've ever seen, and a great prospect in Ezekiel Elliott. I think you may hit around the same numbers if you were to go into a good system, a good O-line like as you see with Ezekiel Elliott. I think the number, I guess, the most likely to hit those numbers, I think, could be a McCaffrey, not in the sense of rushing yards, but in the sense of all-purpose yards with his passing ability. And to me, to follow the first question, I think the 5 premier running backs you just mentioned, but I think the worst out of the 5, other than I think Kamara might be the worst, not the worst, but the lesser of grades. Yeah, I think the 4th best might be Dalvin Cook. I think he's widely overrated. I think people are hitting too hard on his pass catching ability. I think Alvin Kamara might be even better of a pass catcher than Dalvin Cook. Might be able to do more. I think Dalvin Cook, I don't really think he's that great of a runner. He's not bad of a runner. I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's that great of a pass catcher. He's such an average running back. I think Kamara adds more in his pass catching game, not as much in his running game. Obviously Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, they're better runners, bigger, more physical. So yeah, it's Christian McCaffrey, obviously.
So after this, I'm going to give Pablo a quick rebuttal. And but what would you like to say, Pablo?
The one thing I want to add to what he has to say, I do agree with the Dalvin Cook statement. I agree with the Christian McCaffrey
I was going to
statement.
ask if you think that Dalvin Cook is overrated. Do you agree with Christian's claim?
I do. What I've heard is he's had inconsistent workouts, and there's just a question of his motor. But what I do want to add is the 5 running backs. There's one who could fall, who I do not believe should fall, in the sense of Devontae Freeman from Texas, led the nation in rushing yards, a power back at the finest, and I think that he could be a sleeper. Could bring massive talent to any team that takes him. He's a game changer. Devontae Freeman from Texas.
Yeah. Where do you think he falls in the draft?
In my eyes, based on the framework, the stats he put up at Texas, he could easily be a second round if could fall to the 3rd round. Maybe a team like Green Bay could take him. They like their power backs. They have a hole there, but they could also take someone earlier, depending on how they feel their needs are and who's on the board.
I'd like to add something. For a sleeper, I think my sleeper in the draft would be in running back position. I think it'd be Jamal Williams. I think no one's really banking on him to be a really great back. I think just watching I know he didn't do spectacular he didn't do bad. He didn't do spectacular on his combine and all those. But I think just looking at the game tape, I think Jamal Williams is great. I think he's as good as maybe everyone in this draft, but Leonard Fournette, in the sense that he adds both the running game and passing game.
So I'm going to ask Pablo this last question. Do you agree with Christian's claim? And then we'll head on to the next question.
Williams is a tremendous talent, obviously. If you do not know, Williams was kicked off of the BYU football team because it is against team rules to have sexual relations while attending the academy, the university. And he broke this rule and was kicked off the team and the school. And he does not blame the school, obviously. He says he takes it on and he says great things about the school, the coaches, and his teammates. So it's a good level of honesty. He's a modest player. He knows what he did wrong. He's a tremendous talent, obviously. He could be a steal. So instead of buying into the hype with the 5 guys, obviously they're tremendous talents also. They've earned their way to be the top 5 running back prospects for a reason. But these 2 guys, tremendous talents, could fall sleepers. We've seen sleepers in the past. Good players to keep an eye on.
And I'd like to add 2 really quick things really quick before we continue. I think also Jamal Williams ran in a 4.59. I think that's just numbers. I think some people play better, run faster in a game. I think that his game speed is a lot faster than what the combine showed.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his tapes. Definitely see that he's definitely more of a game speed type of player.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next question. This kind of relates to the 5th question, but Christian, who are some prospects you see being for sure Pro Bowlers their first year out? Will this be because of the team they play for or their own skill set?
So some players that might Pro Bowlers. Are we talking 3 in just a running back or in all positions?
I'd say in all positions.
I think 3 not listed in order. I think would be Leonard Fournette, maybe Christian McCaffrey, because everyone's running out of the shotgun. So I think pass catching backs are more prominent. So I think it's not more of a system setting anymore. I think it's they just adapt to wherever they land. And to the quarterback, I think OJ Howard. I think OJ Howard is just his combination of pass catching and blocking is just unseen right now in today's NFL. Widely so, I think maybe those 3 will be the best prospects so far.
Your 3 people.
He went with offense. I'm going to go with defense. Myles Garrett, of course. That's the obvious one, so I'll say 3 other names because everyone expects Myles Garrett to come out of the gate.
Yeah, I was doing
surefire. Yeah. I'd say Solomon Thomas, who I spoke about earlier. High praise for him. Jamal Adams and Marshawn Lattimore, Ohio State University. The 3 of them, Solomon Thomas, tremendous talent, high motor, intelligent kid, went to Stanford. He knows the rights and wrongs on the football field as well as off the football field, which is obviously a major issue. Jamal Adams, the hitter of the top 2 safeties between himself and Malik Hooker, who's more of a ball hawk. And then Marshawn Lattimore, who's a do-it-all corner. Watching his tape, seeing him play against some of the best receivers in the country, extremely talented, can shut down anyone any given week, and he will do anything to help his team, which is big, extremely big. And then obviously the 3 of them, obviously it's wherever they fall, if they can stay healthy, if they start right away, which we all expect them to. Jamal Adams might be the most questionable one here because I see him historically maybe comparing towards like a Troy Polamalu, not at the same level, obviously. We have yet to see that. But in the sense that he can go down in the box, hit, make plays. He's always going towards the ball. He has a nose for the football. And he's just a speedster who can go after the ball. And like a Rashad Jones will make any hit at any moment when he has to. He's willing to put himself on the line for his team.
Can you do an offensive one? Because I was just doing offense. I'm going to do maybe a top 3 defense really quickly, not going back on. Can you just name your top 3 offensive that you might think that I'll strive?
I'm going to agree with you on Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey. I would say, obviously depending on what team he goes to, John Ross III, the speedster, but I don't see him going in as a wide receiver to the Pro Bowl. initially. I would see him more as a kick returner, punt returner,
Okay.
one of those due to his tremendous speed. Obviously, he ran a 4.22 at the combine.
Exactly.
He's fast. His game speed is faster. If he has even a bit of open space, he's gone. Everyone plays faster during the game, obviously. Adrenaline, all that. You're working your body towards it. But this kid is fast all the time.
Yeah, I think obviously Myles Garrett, he's like we said for an hour straight, he's just unbelievable. Solomon Thomas, I think he adds an athleticism to any team he goes to. I think it's different from the big. He's a big DN. He's an inch away from being exactly like Myles Garrett, huge, and he's I think a little more athletic. Clay doesn't have all the skills that Myles Garrett has. He's a little more versatile and flexible when he goes around the edges. But
One sec. I would say that Solomon Thomas, who you might see as a defensive end, projects better as a defensive tackle in the sense that he has a quick, fresh step and he has great hands to come in from the inside. Defensive end I'm not going to say it's an easier position than defensive tackle, but coming from the outside compared to coming from the inside, you have the guard in the center usually moving up on you. I think he's better fit for that, like an Aaron Donald, as I stated before. The comparison is with Aaron Donald, so I could see him doing the same things as Aaron Donald.
I'd have to disagree with you. I think maybe where he lands, it depends what the team wants to do. Obviously, with
Systematic fit.
Yeah, systematic fit. Maybe if they already have a DN, or a D tackle, they put him at DN. I think he's better suited for DN. Like you said, Aaron Donald. Yeah, Aaron Donald's athletic and everything, but
who are your other two players?
I was doing 3, so those 2 are my 2. I'm doing my last one, or I'm doing 4.
I mean, I said Myles Garrett was
I'm gonna
unanimous.
do 4 because I have 4. Malik Hooker, I think he's the question of the best safety, Jamal Adams, Malik Hooker. I think it's clear Malik Hooker. I think the hard hitting safety is not extinct. I was talking about this earlier with Pablo. I think they're not extinct, but it's really rare you find just a hard-hitting safety, really one-dimension safety that really thrives in the NFL. I think Malik Hooker's ball hawking ability is just he can catch like the wide receivers. It's crazy. If you see some game tape, you see he catches like a wide receiver. He recognizes plays. I think he's going to be a better talent translate better in the NFL than Jamal Adams. And I think my 4th prospect is going to be Reuben Foster. Like I was saying, he's hard hitting. I think he's going to be a leader in any defense he goes to right away. I think he's going to produce. He's going to be like if I have to compare, I think like Vontaze Burfict, maybe a little more athletic. Obviously less problems, less fines, but yeah, I think those are my 4.
Right. I think we're all in agreement with this. So I'm going to head on to the next question because we're running a little short on time.
Well, one more thing before we go. I think when you said John Ross, just to go way back to what you were saying, John Ross, you said a kick returner. I think the same thing might happen to Christian McCaffrey. He might become a Pro Bowl selection maybe.
We saw Darren Sproles, who's usually a kick and punt returner, go into the Pro Bowl, obviously as an alternative, but he still went in as a running back. So we could see Christian McCaffrey going in as the same thing, that pass catching back, depending where he falls.
I think he's I think he comes up like a Darren Sproles, a Danny Woodhead, one of those
a little
pass catching backs.
Yeah,
I think his versatility is great. I think.
All right, so let's move on to I believe we're at the 7th. If Deshaun Watson and Trubisky are off the board by the Cleveland Browns' 12th pick, do you think they go for Kaiser, or should they think about other holes in the roster?
I think at number 12, if those 2 are gone,
or not Kaiser.
Yeah. I think they don't go with. I think at 12. I think they have to go with quarterback. I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't. But if you ask me to choose a quarterback other than those 2,
yeah, let's say they're off the board. Or it could be another position.
I think they go with another position. I think if it's not Mitch Trubisky or Deshaun Watson, I don't think they go with something else. I think those are the 2 for best for them. I think Deshaun Kaiser needs a more stable franchise, like to say, better surrounding. I think he needs 1 year to sit below as a backup to really thrive. So I don't see any of. If it's not those 2 quarterbacks, I think they fill up another hole.
All right, Pablo, your case.
I've stressed this before multiple times. once again bringing up our draft preview on Sports Routes. 2018 is an extremely strong quarterback class. The Browns have Cody Kessler and Brock Osweiler right now on the roster. Yes. Depending what they do with them, we shall see. But 2018 features Lamar Jackson from Louisiana, Heisman Trophy winner. Jake Browning, University of Washington, led his team to the college football playoffs. Sam Dobert from USC led them in that thrilling Rose Bowl game against Penn State. And Luke Falk from Washington State University. And Josh Allen from Wisconsin. Not from Wisconsin, from Wyoming. Those 5 guys, I think that draft class, that quarterback class in 2018 is better than the one in 2017. 12, if the 2 top quarterbacks are off the board by then, they should not be looking at quarterback. Kaiser and Mahomes, like Christian said, I agree with him. Both of them need a year to develop under a solid starting quarterback. You can see either of them going to an Arizona Cardinals, New York Giants, New Orleans Saints. 12, look for a talented defensive player. You could see a cornerback fall here, a Garon Conley maybe. He can go anywhere from 11 to 32. Or a linebacker, maybe outside linebacker. They have a whole lot of left outside linebacker. Mm-hmm. And basically, yeah, I don't think if Watson and Trubisky are off the board, you should not be going quarterback here. Maybe if you want to go get quarterback later on, you could take a Nate Peterman from Pitt, a Davis Webb from Cal, or a Brad Kaya from Miami.
I actually have a question to that. So, while there is you named about 5 perspectives, right, for the 2018 draft class. Now, are you sort of implying that the Browns should tank another season, or should they try to go somewhere at least, or should they tank again this season just to get a good pick?
The Cleveland Browns, I'm going to compare them to the Philadelphia 76ers of the NBA. Obviously, the mentality of you lose now to win later has been thrown around with them collecting talent. Cleveland Browns right now are not suited to win. No matter how you look at it, no matter who you put into that roster, right now they are not suited to win. If they get a game changer, it could change. Hugh Jackson's a tremendous coach. Did a great job in Oakland that one season he was there. Did a tremendous job in Cincinnati with Andy Dalton. But that team's obviously not built to win right now. Next year, I don't think that they'll get the first pick in the draft again. I don't think they have as bad a season as they had this season. Next year, they could more than likely have a top 5 pick, obviously. You have 5 quarterbacks that could be taken, so we'll just have to see. But they're not suited to win now, so I definitely think if they can't get a quarterback this year, they should not fret because next year is a much better class.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think I just agree with Pablo. I think, and I don't think they were taken. I think they're legitimately horrible. I think they're a horrible team this year. I think they get a lot better this year. I think they might. The top of them might be going 8-8, but I mean, it could possibly go 8-8 if they really hit in the draft. They can go 8-8. I mean, that's the highest expectation. I don't think they have a winning record. I think they most likely have a losing record, but 5-5 is plausible if they really hit in the draft. What he said. I think this class is getting really bagged on. I think honestly these quarterbacks aren't that bad. I think I just think it's a good class. I think I think they just don't pick a quarterback in this class. Maybe if it's not Deshaun Watson or Mr. Trubisky in the 12th, I don't think they pick another. I don't think they pick a quarterback.
Interesting take. So, I actually have a different question. This isn't very much related to the draft. It's just a general question I have. It's always surprising when the Jacksonville Jaguars, people always talk about them in the beginning. If you saw the first game against the Green Bay Packers, they put on a show for them. It was definitely not one of the easiest things. Do you think the addition of any of the players at the Jacksonville Jaguars, this is just a personal question I have, do you think anything will change this year? Or
they added AJ Bouye from the Houston Texans, All-Pro corner, or Pro Bowl corner. I do not recall if he made it to the All-Pro team this season, but he had a phenomenal season. They added defensive end Calais Campbell from the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals, tremendous talent as well. Former Pro Bowler. Massive player. Last season they signed Malik Jackson to a monster contract.
Right.
He's obviously a tremendous talent. Drafted Miles Jack and Jalen Ramsey, 2 top 5 players in last year's draft. Miles Jack obviously fell due to the knee injury. Jalen Ramsey had what would have been a Pro Bowl season, but there's a bunch of extremely talented corners in the NFC. So it all falls on the shoulders of Blake Bortles. We could see them add a Leonard Fournette in the draft. That's best case scenario, obviously, and it's what they should go for. He's a once in a lifetime prospect. Obviously, what we heard about Adrian Peterson coming out the year he came out from Oklahoma.
Will he make them a winner?
They have the pieces to win. They went and drafted. They went and signed some offensive linemen because they had a awful offensive line. So it all depends on if the offensive line can hold up and how if we get a 2016 Blake Bortles or a 2015 Blake Bortles, which we'll just have to wait and see. So basically, Jacksonville's future relies on the shoulders of their quarterback from the University of Central Florida, Blake Bortles, former 3rd overall pick. We'll see if the talent that he's shown to have resonates for the Jaguars next season.
Your take on that?
Yeah, I honestly agree. I find it a huge mystery why they bank the last 3 years, including this one, last 3 years in free agency, and they came up with a horrible season last year. I have no explanation, but I think it is on the shoulders of Blake Bortles. I honestly don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think he's really raw and undefined. I think they haven't yet groomed him to be that, pocket passing, accurate quarterback. I think he does succeed, but I think they have a much better season this year. I mean, if they don't, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that team. I think AJ Boye was amazing. I mean, Calais Campbell obviously was a good signing, but I think AJ Boye was the best free agent signing this year because, I mean, you have Jalen Ramsey, a huge man coverage corner that close to lockdown, but, rookie. In rookie year, he did amazing, but I think AJ Boye is two best of both worlds. You have a man corner, huge, and you have a small, more zone, clean feet corner in AJ Boye that can really play the zone and cover these quick cornerbacks that like to cut inside, and maybe Jalen Ramsey can't handle like that.
The one thing I want to add to what you just said, which I agree with, obviously, mostly when talking about corners, in a division where you have T.Y. Hilton, DeAndre Hopkins, and Rashard Matthews, who a bunch of people sleep on, tremendous talent.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota loves him.
Right.
Corners are important, but we're not only looking at Jacksonville from the perspective of they did good in free agency. They've also been banking on their draft picks. So it's just they beat themselves, obviously. We see teams that just lose games. That they don't do anything wrong the entire game, but then they just lose the game themselves. That's what happened with Jacksonville. They, on paper, they are not a 3-13 team. And other players have said Blake Bortles, tremendous talent. He just struggled. Every player has a bad season. Peyton Manning, his rookie season, threw 20-plus interceptions.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's hard to compare anyone to a Peyton Manning, but you still have to look at a down season for a player. And you always have to be optimistic about the player. Blake Bortles is young. He's determined, obviously. He has the weapons. We just have to see what he does with it and how Gus Bradley and the entire staff in Jacksonville uses this talent.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on what you said. I think if they were to add a Leonard Fournette in the draft, this might be a little off, maybe a hot take, but I don't think he does a single thing for them. I think he'll do better as a diversion, like a big name to get the defense, focused on maybe the run game more often. Because I think in this league, in this day and age, the league is more banked on pass catching running backs. And you see the hype going with McCaffrey and Kamara and Dalvin Cook. I think T.J. Yeldon is just a perfect running back. I think for them, I think he just doesn't have the name for defenses to buy on. I think if they were to draft Leonard Fournette, his biggest impact on the team would be he'd be a talent, but I think he he'd be a better diversion than he would be a running back. I think defenses would see the hype around Leonard Fournette and obviously focus on that more and create space for Blake Bortles. But I think TJ Yeldon and Chris Ivory is a perfect combination for them.
All right. So
I have one thing to add. What intrigues me the most about Jacksonville, with the two running backs you said, inputting a Leonard Fournette could mean the more use of a two running back set, which could switch between Fournette, Ivory, two power backs. You can go either way with that, any direction. One can block for the other. TJ Yeldon and Chris Ivory, Chris Ivory is very talented, can also catch out of the backfield. Or a Leonard Fournette and a TJ Yeldon to maybe do a triple option. And we've seen teams go with it before, even if it does not suit the quarterback. We've seen teams go triple option pass, triple option run, and you can go either way with any of the three. It's at this point Jacksonville needs more talent because their talent did not show up last year. We'll just see what they have to do.
Yeah, you're talking like a three back set, like
no, two back set.
Yeah,
but
like
you mix and match,
a triple threat. You know what I mean?
Like
the Raiders, like the Raiders were running.
Yeah, like using three running backs.
Yeah. The only reason why previously in the draft I did not pick Jacksonville taking a running back is because I honestly think that TJ Yeldon, obviously the recent pickup of Chris Ivory last season. I mean, there's no reason to take Leonard Fournette. I mean, if you need a goal line back, I understand if you pick Leonard, but you have Chris Ivory. He's huge and
once in a lifetime talent.
Yeah,
that's what you have with Leonard
so
Fournette. You cannot pass on talent.
So is OJ Howard. If they don't take OJ Howard, then
but you have an Evan Ingram later on in the draft.
Sorry. Let's hold on to this. We're going to take one final break before we do two more questions. I have two more questions directed at each one of you. You're going to answer that yourselves. So for now, we're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So I'm going to ask two more final questions to discuss, and then I'm going to ask each person their own individual question. So the Carolina Panthers have shown interest in Christian McCaffrey. If McCaffrey's still on the board by number 8, who do you see them taking? Is off the board by number 8, who do you see them taking? Or will they still consider a running back? Let's start with Christian.
I think in defense, if you have a Solomon Thomas available, and only Solomon Thomas,
I think he'll drop down to
number 8. I think he might.
Number 8, excuse me.
Yeah, I think there's a high possibility he might. I think most likely he won't. I don't know why I said high possibility. Most likely he won't, but I mean, yeah, if he's available, there's a chance. I mean, it's a low chance, but there's a chance that he might dip. I think they pick him, but if he's off the board, I think they do take a running back in Leonard Fournette. If he's not available, I think if they pick Dalvin Cook, I'll be really disappointed because again, I really dislike him as a top talent in this draft. I think he's overrated. I think they go defense, and in the second round or even the third round, they pick up a Joe Mixon, which is in time the second best running back in this draft. But he's obviously going to dip to maybe the second, third, or even early fourth because of his off the field issues.
All right, Pablo.
First of all, Solomon Thomas will not fall to the 8th overall pick.
Very possible.
Will not at all.
Don't interrupt.
Christian McCaffrey, solid pick. Obviously, an all-purpose back. Definitely talented. Contributes in the run and the pass game. And return kicks and punts. Definitely a special talent. Broke Barry Sanders' all-purpose yardage record in his sophomore season. So we're looking at a rare talent from Stanford. So he's a smart kid. I mean, Joe Mixon, obviously, he's not going to be a first rounder. I don't see him falling to third or fourth round though. He has a first round grade on him, so he's definitely going to fall to the second round. Maybe the lowest he falls is mid-second round, mid to late. So you could see them take, as we spoke about before, Jamal Williams from BYU. We could see him going to Carolina. Deontay Freeman, obviously, later on. And, I think McCaffrey would be a solid pick here. I definitely think they could use an all-purpose back who can contribute from the slot, in the backfield, learn a season from Jonathan Stewart, maybe most likely gain weight, obviously, which is what most players do as they transition from college to the NFL. Mm-hmm. and he's a solid pick there. If he's there, I think they should take a long look at him. And obviously, if they have interest and he's there, then yeah, definitely pull the trigger. Give Cam Newton another target.
I could not disagree anymore. First of all, with the Joe Mixon, it's very possible he goes to the third. Very possible he goes to the third. I think he'll go early, mid. I think he probably going to land mid-second round because, again, there's a reported only 7 to 6 teams. He's even on their board. Because, again, there's a lot of NFL players that come around with domestic violence or even just violence in general, but the video made it so prominent in people's minds that some teams have him off their board completely. So out of the 7 teams, how many either need him or want him in the second round is very likely he goes to the third round. I think fourth was a stretch. I'm just, as a possibility, third is likely. I think second round is where he'll land. And with what you're saying about Christian McCaffrey, I think with him, I think weight-wise, I think it's what you see is what you get. I think this is what you're going to get. I don't think he'll add a more. I think weight added wouldn't even make a difference in his game. I think what he is what he'll be for the rest of his career. Pass catching back, fast, obviously good at kick returning. I think the best pick for us would be a Joe Mixon in either our pick from Carolina or our pick from Patriots. I'm talking about the Panthers right now. I think if they get him with the last pick in the second round with the Patriots pick acquired from the trade with Coney Ely, I think that would be great. If Leonard Fournette obviously is off the board, but I think if Leonard Fournette is off the board and with the 8th pick, I don't know. I think they'll go with Dalvin Cook or Christian McCaffrey.
So I have a question for you. You obviously brought up Leonard Fournette. So do you think there's a rumor that Carolina has contacted the 49ers in regards to trading up to that second spot? Do you think it's worth it moving up to 2 and getting a Leonard Fournette with the depth of this year's running back class?
You saying if there were the possibility of them trading up?
Yeah.
No.
Do you think it would be a smart idea?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think this running back depth is it's in depth, like immense. I think in the second round, again with Joe Mixon, I think they get a great running back. I think Joe Mixon would be my perfect scenario is either 2 things. They get Leonard Fournette with the 8th pick, which that would be great, but I think a better pick would be get a defensive.
I don't think he's falling down that far though.
Who, Leonard Fournette to the 8th pick?
Yeah.
I think he might. I mean, it depends on what Jacksonville wants to do, honestly. But I think he could. I think it's possibly could. I think if Jacksonville doesn't get him, it's surefire they're picking Leonard Fournette. There's no question about it if he dips to the 8th pick. But I think the best case scenario would be Joe Mixon in with either the 8th pick in the second round or the last pick in the second round. I think Joe Mixon would be great. But Jamal Adams would also be good because I think a pass catching back for the Panthers isn't really what we need. I think we need a power back. And again, there's a lot of questions about Leonard Fournette's ability to catch or in his passing ability, like his pass catching ability, like a McCaffrey. I think he's great in passing. I think everyone just put that stamp on him, a label on him, and I think he can live up to the hype that's been put on him. And I think if he goes to Carolina, it'd be great. I think if Joe Mixon came to Carolina, it'd be great. Those are the backs I really like to see on.
Okay, so we're back with the final question that I'm going to ask before I ask their own individual questions. So this question it's kind of tangibly related, but it's basically, who do you think is the most pro-ready, not in the sense of performing athletic and amazing numbers, but in the sense of who will perform at the NFL level straight off college? I'm going to start with Pablo.
We've been raving about this guy all night, and I think I speak for both of us here when I say Myles Garrett. Absolute freak athletically. He has the build. We can compare him athletically with Jadeveon Clowney coming out of South Carolina, a Calvin Johnson, a LeBron James. It's insane how athletic this kid is, and that will translate to the NFL game because of his high motor. But another player I like that is extremely pro-ready is the cornerback from Ohio State University, Marshawn Lattimore. Definitely a top 5 pick. Urban Meyer sends his guys pro-ready like a Nick Saban, and we'll just see this kid perform on Sundays doing whatever he can to help his team win.
Oh yeah, obviously we agree with Miles Garrett, who doesn't apparently have of Ohio. I think maybe I think the best pro ready player right now, I think that will perform right off the gate was obviously I was talking about him all pod. Is Reuben Foster. To me, he is my favorite defensive prospect, one of my overall prospects, one of my favorite in this year's draft. I'm not saying best because we all know Miles Garrett, but my favorite is Reuben Foster. I mean, the way he hits, the way he reads defenses and hits the hole and catches the running back, the way he gets off the edge to get the running back, even to sack the quarterback. I mean, it's crazy. He's just a phenomenal player. I think what he can add to a defense is sort of what I said earlier, what Vontaze Burfict can add. Yeah, maybe a little bit more athletic. I think he'll end up maybe even better than Vontaze Burfict in the pro league. Give him 2 more years and he'll be even better than Vontaze Burfict to me.
The one thing I do want to add is I think Leonard Fournette is extremely pro ready. I think the college game, which is a lot slower than the NFL. Actually, the college game is a lot faster. Leonard Fournette, at a slower pace, could perform better as well.
I slightly disagree with the Leonard Fournette and the Marshawn Lattimore selection that you chose. I think Leonard Fournette would. I think Leonard Fournette will maybe perform better in later years, not his rookie year. I think he'll get better over time. I'm not saying he'll do bad in the first year, but obviously I think he'll improve. And Marshawn Lattimore the same. I honestly don't. I find Marshawn Lattimore having a very low ceiling. Not bad, but I just don't think there's much room for improvement.
No, I think Marshawn Lattimore has extreme room for performance. I think he'd play any spot in the secondary. If you want to throw him back at safety, he could probably play that too. I think he could cover tight ends. He could stay with the best of them and the fastest wide receivers. Like I said, maybe a Jalen Ramsey, what he did in Jacksonville, we can see Marshawn Lattimore doing the same with whatever team drafts him. And he's a surefire top 5 pick.
Yeah. I honestly don't even think he has the high ceiling in the corners. I think someone like Adoree Jackson, I think is a great time. I think he's physically a lot faster. I think he's a steal if he goes mid-second round. I think he's just as good as Marshawn Lattimore and any other prospect here. I also think a really late round pick would be a Rasul Douglas. I think he's actually really good. I think he's a big physical corner that can be used in certain teams. I don't think he's a compact player in the fact that he can move to any team and make a difference. I think maybe a more zone cover scheme team could use Rasul Douglas as a better talent.
I do disagree. I think Marshawn Lattimore, we have not seen the best of it. But what I do want to add is one player that we've barely spoken about, who is being slept on, the 3rd best defensive end in this class, Derek Barnett. Mm-hmm. Extremely talented player, extremely high motor. At the combine, he had the flu and he still performed. He still did the entire combine minus the 40-yard dash with the flu. So he wants it. And we might not compare that to pro-ready skill, but he has heart. He wants to get it. So I'm sure wherever he falls, which a spot I like for him is 11, New Orleans Saints. Pair him up with Cameron Jordan. Cameron Jordan, yeah, my bad. As I said in our NFL draft preview, pairing them two up together would be a massive get for the Saints. Extremely pro-ready. Jordan Cameron.
No, Jordan Cameron.
No, Jordan Cameron is the tight end.
Yeah.
It's Cameron Jordan.
Cameron Jordan,
the defensive end.
Yeah, no.
So as I was saying, there's film of him. There was a miscommunication on defense in a Tennessee game. He goes from the line of scrimmage, drops back in coverage, and runs 50 yards with a wide receiver and swats the ball down.
Exactly.
That's the passion you want in a player. Definitely pro-ready. He'll get it. Extremely talented.
You have something to add, Christian?
Yeah, no, clearly we disagree with this one. Not by much. I think Marshawn Lattimore is a good player. I just don't think he has the ceiling like other cornerbacks, like Adoree Jackson or even
I think Adoree Jackson, sometimes his technique isn't on there. I study corners and safeties a lot. So I know when the technique is sometimes missing. Adoree Jackson showed some weakness on his technique. Obviously, you can teach technique, but I think Marshawn Lattimore, most pro ready, he'll come in and be an impact player day one.
Yeah, I honestly think that Marshawn Lattimore is a more pro ready corner, but I think when it comes to ceiling, I think Adoree Jackson over time will have a better career than Marshawn Lattimore.
But we're talking about pro ready coming out of the draft,
that's
not over time. So I would have to say Marshawn Lattimore best. I wouldn't say highest ceiling. He'll have the best impact wherever he goes.
Yeah, no, that's right.
All right, so final question. So the way this works is I'm just going to ask Pablo one question and also Christian one question. This will be no rebuttal. This will just be your final question for each of you. So I'm going to start with Christian first, and Pablo got to go in the beginning first. Christian, there's a lot of hype surrounding Myles Garrett. Do you believe he will live up to that hype?
Absolutely. I think what he did in his collegiate career and what he did in the combine just proved it all. I think his only question was how he was going to perform in the combine, and he absolutely killed it. I think his stats in college obviously boosted him up to the first pick, and the combine just absolutely confirmed it. He's going, if he doesn't go number one, I don't know what's wrong with Cleveland, but I don't know. If he doesn't go first pick, it'll be a tragedy. I think he's a guaranteed top prospect. I think he's one of the best prospects we've seen in the last couple of drafts. I think last defensive prospect to touch him in like a defensive line is Jadeveon Clowney, and some people are saying that he's may even be a better player than Jadeveon Clowney moving forward in his career.
What do you think about
that? Yeah.
All right. So finally, I'm going to ask Pablo his last question. Are there teams that with the addition of a player could mean the difference between heading to the playoffs, or you get what I mean in a sense like this player, we add him, he's the reason why we're going to the playoffs, or even a Super Bowl run, a Super Bowl contention?
The NFL and football is a team sport. Obviously, you always look to bank on your picks, mostly your first rounder. It's hard to pinpoint one player and say this guy will make or break the team. Obviously, you can look at quarterbacks like that, but you don't usually see rookies in that sense. It's more seasoned. After a year or two, we could see that argument can be made with Dak Prescott next year. But in the sense that it's a team sport, when you draft it together, it's the class. You look at the draft class and say, will this draft class help your team change? Winning now. Miami Dolphins, for example, during Jeff Ireland, weak draft classes, obviously some studs, some late round studs, but as you see in the first season of the Gase era, first, second, third, fourth, those late round picks also, you saw them get in and play, make an impact. So it all depends how the teams see their players, how much they value the guys they pick up. And in general, like if we have the Atlanta Falcons, so to say, if they pick one guy up, it's not going to be like this guy's going to change the entire dynamic of the franchise. And if they had this guy, they wouldn't have lost in the Super Bowl. Obviously, they picked up Dontari Poe from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Game changer. They need him. They need help on that front line. So a guy like that, you could say, someone that you've already seen something from, who you know will improve your team. But in the sense of rookies, I mean, it's kind of hard to look at. I think maybe Cincinnati taking a wide receiver first round, that would help them because once A.J. Green went down, their offense was struggling without a wide receiver who can take over. So I think you have to look at the class in general and make that assumption if they'll help them make the playoffs or like that. Because another example I'm going to give is the Dallas Cowboys. Drafting Ezekiel Elliott, first round, 4th overall pick. Everyone said this team is definitely going to make the playoffs if Tony Romo can stay healthy. Tony Romo was hurt in the preseason. Dak Prescott comes in. An article that I wrote on him on SportsRoutes.com. Will Dak Prescott be the next best Cowboys quarterback? We see him step in for Tony Romo with a 4th round pick. Dak Prescott obviously comes in, changes the dynamic of the team with the help of Ezekiel Elliott, already talented franchise in the Dallas Cowboys with the Dez Bryant, the amazing offensive line, and Jason Witten at tight end. So you just have to look at the entire draft class. You can't just pinpoint one player and say, this guy's going to change the whole dynamic of the franchise.